Good morning, this is Rabbi Shlomo, first here at Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi. This is our first year here in the morning. Learning Pirkei Avos. Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi is located in Yerushalyim, HaKodesh, not too far from the central bus station. So you can walk in there, take a bus. If you're driving, there's parking across the street. Coming from Kutzlars, please join us. I'd like to enrich your visits to Yerushalyim and Eretz Yisrael with as much Torah as possible. Bezos Hashem. Learning Pirkei Avos, but taking a digression now into the Gemara Rosh Hashanah. We're basically learning, as the Mishnah Avos taught us, that we should shouldn't give up hope, don't despair, and also don't forget about Peronius. Don't forget about things, tragedies, hardships that a HaKodesh Baruch Hu can have brought upon a person at a time. So to explain that, previously we mentioned Rabbeinu Tam in the Sefer Yosher. He mentioned that a person is going to be tested at these times when he's under stress, whether for good things or for not so good things. And these stresses are going to test him and take his heart away from serving HaKodesh Baruch Hu. So therefore, you should remember, Rabbeinu Tam teaches us that we have a pact and a promise and a vow that we've promised to HaKodesh Baruch Hu that we will serve him under all conditions. So yesterday we learned the Gemara Nida that a person at the time of his birth takes a vow, the shvur, that he should be a tzaddik when he comes into the world. He's going to be faced with a lot of things. It's not like living in the womb of a mother. Everything's supplied for a person. He's in absolute tremendous bliss. And he's coming into the world of action and of sometimes difficulties. So he has to, in spite of that fact, make himself into a tzaddik. So that's the promise. Now we learn about the other aspects of what we're obligated to do for HaKodesh Baruch Hu under all conditions. That's based on the Maimer of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi here in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, Daf Yud Aleph, Amud Aleph. It's about almost a little bit short of halfway down the page. It says the first words on the page are Hahu K'd Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Have it there?
Hahu?
Hahu. That is K'd Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. That is like the statement of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi.
I have Amhut Rabbi Yeshua.
The Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. The first word on the line is Levi.
First word is Levi. Okay.
Well, that's the second line. That's the second line. I want to start with the one.
I have it. Hahu could Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi.
Yeah, go ahead. Yaakov.
Hahu could Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Amar.
Yes.
Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Kol Ma'aseh Bereshit, Kamatan, Yivru, L'Datan, Yivru, L'Tziviyunan, Yivru, Shenetmar, Yachlu L'Shmayim Ba'aretz, L'Fal Tzava'am. Right, okay, full stop.
Okay, good. Let's review the statement again.
Sure. Said Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, I guess, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua?
No, it's like the Gemara has just mentioned a certain topic. We're not going to go into that now. And it's saying that topic we just mentioned is understood, is contained within the words of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Hahu, that what we just discussed, is contained in the words of Yeshua ben Levi. What are the words of Yeshua ben Levi? Now, I'm Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. And so said Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi.
Okay. That which we were just talking about, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, but for the words of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, he said, Kol Ma'aseh Bereshit, every act of creation, the Kumtan, I guess, endures.
It's in its stature. Kuma is something that something which is upright is standing kuma, right? And the person wants to get up. He said kum. Then you see the pasuk by Esau. Yeah, by Esau when he brought the food for Yitzchak Avinu at the time of the brachas, the kumavi.
Right. The shorish I know. It's just this particular, I guess, conjugation I didn't know to try to translate. So every act of creation in uprightness was created.
like in its stature. I mean, it was in its full maturity.
Full maturity.
Full maturity. What I mean, Hashem did not create chicks. Right?
I see. Okay.
He did not create little babies. I don't remember. Yeshua was not a baby when it was created. He was created, but also in his full maturity.
Okay.
That's what we're saying.
Very interesting. So every act of creation was created in its full maturity.
Right. See, the world asks the question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Right? But we have no question. Rabbi Yeshua Levi says it was obviously the chicken.
We have no question?
No question.
Only the Goyim have the question?
They don't have the Torah.
I guess to their knowledge they were created, so that they were created with full knowledge?
Yeah, Ledaita. I mean, that we'll see. This is what we're going to see. Ledaita, meaning with their knowledge. They were created with their knowledge.
Oh, with their consent?
Oh, that's exactly. We'll see Rashi in a moment, as a sure.
Because we just read yesterday that against your will you were created against.
And we're going to try and deal with that as well. We're going to have that is something which is on the horizon, which we're going to have to try and deal with.
Okay.
I hope the Gedolei Israel coming to the previous generations have dealt with the question, because otherwise we're going to have to come up with an answer on our own, which I'm not so confident that I'd like to do that. But.
And is it possible, just so that I can sort of keep the big picture in my mind, I think that will help. Where will this lead to rejoicing at the enemy's downfall?
Right. So you have to understand when an enemy's when your enemy is fallen, defeated, right? So why are we warned not to rejoice? So because we have to realize what's happening to him, right? Basically is somewhat independent from you. He might be an enemy to you in some way or another, but his downfall, right, and therefore the elimination of your enemy is not something which we necessarily should rejoice about, because in its own aspects it's independent from your relationship with him, right? So what you're rejoicing about may not be proper. So
independent relationship with Hashem or with the enemy? With the enemy,
meaning you think that he's being, even if you defeat him, right? We got into the whole question of the Yam Suf. Right, even if we defeat, again, we didn't defeat them. We didn't do anything at all to them, right? But say Hanukkah, right? There we did. So even though it was tremendously miraculous, and it was completely impossible according to natural means, so therefore Hashem, to a large extent, did do things. You have Haman. Who's an enemy, right? So we'll be getting to that, Mitzvah Hashem, but we have to get through all these layers of understanding of what's happening in the world and why things are happening in the world and how things are created in the world and our attitudes towards this. So hopefully we'll be getting to the answer.
Okay. So
meaning if a person's created a Russia, we can ask a question. If a person's created a Russia,
then why have an emotional reaction? Because he's everything is sort of predetermined.
I would prefer again. I want to stay away from that discussion. That'll take us a few more weeks.
How about this? He's just being himself.
Good. He's being himself, right? So what's happening to him, right? What gives us a right to rejoice over what's happening to him? We may feel relieved if he's been bothering us. Maybe we feel relieved that he's not bothering us anymore, and maybe that's a right to rejoice, right? But we have to understand what that's and this is Al Tismach in the downfall of your enemy. You have to realize what how and why you're being taught about that. And don't forget, Shmuel Katan was simply stating a pasuk in Mishlei. That's simply a pasuk in Mishlei, right? So for a Tana just to repeat a pasuk, a verse in Mishlei, right? Like I told us when we started learning that originally, I said that's great. That's a great way to get into Pirkei Avos. Just pick a pasuk in Mishlei and say it. You can get yourself into the Gemara. Is that a great idea? You can get yourself into the Mishnayos by just quoting a pasuk in Mishlei.
Say something over we already know?
Yeah. So that's the question. So he said he was saying that constantly. So as we were discussing then, to say that constantly, Obviously, people must have had to need that lesson. They must have had that was the lesson people had to learn. And that's the first pasuk in Mishlei, right? So obviously, there's something going on here, and
There's a footnote from before with that Gemara from Rashi that said what it literally means is the guy, every person that he met, he said this over to every single time.
Right.
This was him. As soon as you saw, that was how he introduced himself, type of thing. This was what he did with everyone.
that
It wasn't so.
that was a calling card. Exactly.
Correct.
Some people go along with the Havdil, the Hav gun will travel, right? Some people go with that. A Havdil, this woman was saying, don't rejoice in your enemy's downfall. I mean, that's something you have to tell everybody you meet. That's what we're famous for. You have to. It's brought down to verse. I mentioned this before also. The Shmuel Katan was considered to be a chaver of Rabbi Akiva. So knowing that, you have to understand what type of period of life and the history he was living in. Right after the Korban Abayis, the Roman control over Eretz Yisrael was very strong and very harsh. You have to realize what's going on. So Bez should get back to that. You have to cross a couple of layers of hashkafa before we get to that. Yeah, so let's just repeat again. Now, Amir Shubin Levi, go ahead. Just one more point. Go ahead.
Okay.
Kol Ma'aseh Bereshit, everything that's created in the universe.
Kol Ma'aseh Bereshit lekumatan nivru, lekumatan nivru, letziviunan nivru. That would be in its glory, in its majesty. In its glory.
Well, that we'll have to see. They'll be explained. It could be like with its colors. We're going to see. We're showing you next week about this. We're going to spend time on these. So basically, three things: Rukumaso in its maturity, right? Meaning, Kadosh Baruch Hu did not create eggs; He created chickens, right? And the Daiton, it was created with their knowledge. They were informed about their creation before they were created. In Tzivonim, we'll have to see. I believe there's a Rashi here.
It says Batam Achar
Echad.
Echad.
The moose called Echad, meaning in its. Well, let's go back up again. Like Rashi says, right? Rashi b'kamosom or nivru, right? You have the Rashis there. It's about 20 lines down from the top of the page. B'kamosom nivru. They were created in their maturity. Go ahead. Take a look at Rashi there.
This means to say,
Hainu eitz pri, meaning a fruit tree. It was created. Let's just give you an example. A fruit tree. Hashem created in Gan Eden. There are trees. There are fruit trees, right? There are fruit trees, right?
Eitz pri ra'ui haya the ta'un pri miyad. So a fruit tree that was fitting to ta'un.
I think like to bear fruits immediately.
Yeah.
Adam Rishon was created, right? So it would be kind of a crummy place to be created in if you had to wait for 6 months to the apples to grow on the trees, right? What's he going to do in the next 6 months? So wheat takes time to grow all. What's he going to eat in the meantime?
Or 5 years for the tree to mature and produce
right.
a proper
fruit. That's right. So everything was created, right? Straight away the way it was, ready to go. Ledaitam, what does it mean? Ledaitam. Take a look at this Rashi.
Ledaitam. Sha'olam.
They were asked.
I say Sha'olam. Im chaftzin, if they wanted, la hivriut. Amru. Hey, they said yes. They were asked if they wanted humanity, hivriut.
No, they were asked chafitzim if they were desirous, la'avisim, to be created.
Okay. They were asked if they wanted to be created. I was reading it like breed, like mankind.
Okay, good.
Shalom im chaftzin lahavriut. Amru hein. They said yes.
So this is a tremendous kasha, right? They were asked if they were desirous of being created, Amru, and all of my celebrations, everything in the world, everything in the universe, Amru, Hain, they said yes. Right? Question.
Okay, so the chicken agreed to be a chicken.
Yes.
the tree agreed to be a tree.
Yes.
Did anybody say, gosh, I want to do more? Or gosh, that's too much for me? Everyone just agreed.
Apparently not. Based on this Rashi, maybe we can go a little bit deeper into it if you want next week. Based on this Rashi, they all said yes.
It's not the pshat though, and you know, it's not the pshat.
What do you mean?
In Bereshit, it's not the pshat.
What does that mean? What you just said?
It means that it's not the simple meaning of Bereshit. I mean, the simple understanding of Bereshit is that it was God's will to do all these things, not by agreement with Adam Rishon.
Yeah, but we're not darshing the psukim here. We're not bringing this.
Wow,
that
excellent point.
That part is not in question now. It's just in the understanding of what took place behind everything.
Okay, all right, I'm listening. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Who says this?
Who says what?
That Hashem asked, do you agree to be a tree? Did you agree to be a chicken?
The Gomorrah, we just read it.
Did you read the Rashi? Take a Rashi. It's right there. Take a look.
Straight from Gomorrah, man.
Don't ask me a question. It was just straight to Gomorrah. We were the Rashi. You ask him. Take a look. You
Look, that's
yourself.
right there.
20 lines down in Rashi. Got it there?
So Rashi says.
Yeah, that's
It's the same
Rashi.
shot in the Gemara. We'll see the Ritva next week. We'll see, but this is Rashi, right?
So the Torah says, on the third day he created trees and.
Right, but before he created, he asked him, are you desirous of being created? Take a look, Rashi says, you have the Rashi. Oshi is my kimos. I'll tell you exactly, in the small lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 lines down. You have it, Ladaitim, and if it's from the top, it's 18 lines. Daitim, you have the Rashi about Daitim?
Yeah.
Daitim. Shalom. Tim Chapsim Livrois. They were asked if they were desirous to be created. Amru. Okay? They said yes. This is Rabbi Yeshiva Lei's big. Tomorrow night you're going to say Kiddush by Shabbos by the table, right? After Kiddush, after you wash your hands, you take out this Gemara because the Maimer is Rabbi Yeshiva Levi. Right? Kol Maaseh Bereshis v'Chumash Nivra v'Daitim Nivra v'Tzivonim Nivra. Shenemar v'Yihu Hashemayim v'Aretz v'Kol Tzivam. Al Tikrei Tzivam El Tzivonim. Don't read it Tzivam. Right, they're hosts, right? Rather Tzivonim. What's Tzivonim? So for that you have to see the next Rashi. What's Tzivonim? Take a look at the next Rashi. Right? Have it there, Yaakov?
Yeah, I have it.
Go ahead. Tzivonim. What's Tzivonim?
Ta'am echad echad. U'b'chus kol echad. I don't know what that means.
Okay, hold on. Okay, so then the tam called echad be'echad with the piece called echad be'echad. Meaning each thing, right, with its own significance. Tam is its significance, and the first call I mean its form. Each thing had its own significance and its own form, right? Meaning there's a significance. Each and everything that was created with significance, right? And it was created with the foods. That's basically a mold, right? It's created with a specific form. Specific form.
I don't think anyone would say that this is literally what happened in Bereshit.
What do you mean?
Because I saw a Gemara this week that said that the meaning of Chumash never departs from Pshat.
Okay.
Which, that makes sense, right? So I mean, this is perhaps like a dress, kind of like maybe it's a nice idea, I don't know. But like, I did, you know, when you go so far away from the pshat, I don't understand that. I don't understand why that's necessary to do.
I'm not sure why you think it's going through pshat.
Because the pshat of Bereshit is that Adam and everything was created. Let's just say Adam was created according to the will of Hashem only. And this is saying that Adam somehow acquiesced to being created prior to the creation.
Well, first, I'm not sure where you get that assumption. Why do you say that in the word Bereshit it means that the HaKodesh Baruch Hu created everything with...
By his will alone?
Yeah.
Because there's nothing else goes on in the parsha. Right? There's no other force. There's no other force besides the will of Hashem. So now we're saying it's the will of Adam Rishon who acquiesced.
Okay, so let me explain like this. The Gemara says that there are 7 things that were created before Ma'aseh Bereshis. One's Gehenna, one's Tshuva, one's Mashiach, one's Torah. Those are the 7 things.
Melech Mashiach was created for like the idea of it, or
take Tshuva. The concept of Tshuva. Tshuva is a concept. Right? Torah is also a concept. Right? So, again, we're talking about the creation of the physical world. Right? In spiritual understandings, there were things that could have been created before the creation of the physical. Right? So all these things, the Daitam, Kumosam, all these things are taking place in the spiritual counterparts of whatever is going to be created. That's what we're learning in Nefesh HaKayim. There's much more spiritual. The physical aspects of a human being, it's just like a shoe for the body. I mean, the shoe is probably one of the smallest garments that a person wears. Socks might be smaller, right? But a shoe is basically one of the smallest things you wear, maybe gloves. Right? But compared to all the other types of clothes that a person wears, shoes are a very small thing. It's the lowest thing. Right? But yet, take a look, aside from the bracha Malbishal Ramim, but we have a specific bracha that's referring to shoes. Right? Why is shoes so vital? Because that's the support of a person. Right? So the physical person, the physical man in this physical universe is the support for great, tremendous spiritual worlds and interactions. Right? But we're just here physically. Right? It's also in terms of the beginning of the creation of everything. Right? These things were going to be sent into a physical form. So when you mean sent into a physical, they're going to be created into a fit. Hashem now decided there's going to be a physical universe. Fine. So now there can be physical forms. So they were created in their full maturity. They were created with their consent, and they were created with specific significance and specific form. So I'm not sure if that is going to contradict anything about the Pashut Pshat in the book.
Yeah, how does Hashem asking deter from the fact that it's still His will anyway?
Yeah, I mean, look, we have a more serious question. We have the more serious question from Avos, right? Right? So here it's against their will, right? You have your Pirkei Avos. Everything you're created against your will. You're born against your will.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here we're learning here that everyone's created with their consent. So that was I think what one of Yaakov's original questions at the beginning of the day.
Well, you already kind of answered that the other day. I thought though, like for example, against your will. You were born, you said, because the womb is such an awesome place to be. Technically, we didn't want to come out of the womb. So that's why that could be considered. So I'm sure there's an explanation for each one of the other ones also that we're not aware of or thinking about or whatever it is.
Well, Bez Hashem will get to it. There's a medrash, Bez Hashem, which is going to complement this Gemara.
So it's not like we didn't want to be born. We didn't want to come out of the womb. It's not like we didn't want to, not go into Israel. We just kind of not wanted to stop the mun and having to do anything. You know what I mean? There's different.
Yeah, but
it's not as straightforward as it says.
There are difficulties, yeah.
These things don't have to be understood literally. Like the nature of like DNA is such that like if you want to say something that says that something was created fully formed, the nature of DNA is that it's almost like fully formed. You just have to. I mean, your DNA is fully formed upon conception, but you just have to grow into it. There might be multiple understandings of this.
Yeah, but sure, that's.
And perhaps in ways that they don't have to correct contradict, but it seems like it's going on in Bereshit. I just don't know them. I don't know what that would be, but.
Okay, well, again, I don't see where there's a contradiction in Bereshit.
Well, this is adding. This is adding details that is not in Bereshit.
That's Torah about that.
That's true.
Welcome to learning Gemara.
That's true. Okay.
All right, we'll have to stop here, and we'll continue in a few minutes.